Hello, I'm Nathan, and I'm doing Civil War weaponry for the Social Studies project. We will start out with the most commonly used weapon, the rifle. The rifle usually comes in the same size. The weight can vary, and so can the caliber. Caliber is the size and weight of the bullet that flows through the rifle and hits, so higher caliber means it can hit harder and faster. And the weight of the rifle can vary from about 2 to 6 pounds. I will now demonstrate. Next up, we have the example of a handgun carried by most soldiers called the revolver. Now, the revolver was less powerful than the rifle, but almost just as common. It also came in different calibers, but the size stayed the same. The weight was much lighter than the rifles, could be like 1 pound or less. And it was usually used as a last resort for most soldiers. Next up, we have the bayonet. This was attached to the end of a rifle. It was pretty much like a short blade that was used to stab at nearby victims since the rifles took a while to reload. An improvement made to the bayonet during the Civil War time was that normally bayonets were like a straight line, just used for stabbing, but surgeons could easily fix up the wounds and it was hard to get out of the body. Next but they improved it to make it a triangle shape so it's easier to stab and pull out, and the surgeon also couldn't fix it easily because the cut is all like messed up. So I'll demonstrate again. Ah! Next up, we have swords. Now, swords were not very common in the Civil War, but they were usually carried by generals. They were used mostly for show, but when the generals were attacked, they were sometimes in close combat, so they had a sword right here to defend themselves. Yeah. The most powerful weapon in the Civil War was the cannon. The cannon was always on the front line of the army and was good at destroying barricades, and it does the most damage. They could range up to 1,700 yards to about 3,000 yards in range, depending on the material made in the cannon, the size of the cannonball, and the length of the shaft. One of the most uncommonly used weapons and unknown weapons in the Civil War was the Gatling gun. The Gatling gun is an old hand-cranked version of today's modern machine gun. It had 6 barrels going around it, which fired at a rate of 600 bullets per minute, which is very fast for their time. This is an example of a not very well known and very uncommon weapon used in the Civil War. It is called a Ketchum grenade. Mind you, this is a bunny football, but I improvised. Anyway, these were used by throwing them at the target's feet, and when it hit there, it would explode based on the trigger in the tip. And they were quite effective, but not seen very often. That explosion that you just saw was completely exaggerated, and I just threw that in there for giggles. Anyway, this is concluding my social studies project, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Lastly, I would like to give a big thank you to my brother James.